Sunflower Technology Club. Welcome, everyone. And we have a special tech talk today. So just have a seat and get comfortable. This is being sent out through Zoom and will later be recorded on YouTube for anyone who wants to look back over it. My name is Kathleen Mace. I'm the president of the Tech Club. Larry Sher is here. Vice President Lorene is our secretary. Martin is the director. And Liz Perry is our treasurer. She's not here today. But all of us come together because we like technology and we want to present it all to you. What we do, besides all the tech talks, as you know, we have the lab, the computer lab. How many of you have been using the computer lab? Well, it's one of your benefits, and it's a big benefit when you think about it, because you can send faxes and you can print black and white and in color. We provide, through your membership dues, the toner, paper, and everything else in the lab for your use. So there's a great deal offered. We have special passwords you have to use to get into the computers. They've already been available to you. Hopefully, you would be able to pick it up at the front desk. If your name is on the membership list, you can get that and use that for the computers and also for the Tech Club Wi-Fi, which has a slightly different reach than the Sunflower Wi-Fi. We also have Sunday Tech Health Sessions on the second and fourth Sunday of the month. So this coming Sunday, it's always at 2 o'clock in the craft room. If you have a mobile device or a laptop, you can bring it and hopefully we'll be able to help you. We have some adults plus some honor society students from Marana High School who are available to help you. So just come on in, and it could be a little problem or a big problem, but we'll do our best to help you out with that. So now I'd like to ask Larry to give us a Tech Lab update.
Okay, we're working on the lab right now. We're going to be updating all the computers in there. First one is supposed to be delivered today. I'll get it set up and hopefully have it working next week in there. It'll have Windows 11 on it. So we're going to be moving over from Windows 10 to Windows 11. We're going to have this first one running. It'll be the one right inside the door to the left, and System 5. And with that one, you can get on there and play with it, see how Windows 11 works. We're going to leave Windows 10 on the others and slowly replace those as well, starting probably in December, starting to upgrade those. And so that's kind of the direction we're going with the lab at this point. Because all these computers, I think the newest one we have is from 2017, so they're all getting up there in age and starting to slow down a little bit like the rest of us. So anyway, that's what the plan is in the lab. There's not a whole lot of other updates coming. And I can't think of anything else I got to do.
Thank you, Larry. I might also add that a few months ago, we kind of redid the whole lab when the carpet was replaced. And we have a special workstation area too. You can bring your own laptop and hook up and print from your laptop too. Now, another part of our board is Tim Walter. He was the past president. He's been the Tech Club running throughout thick and thin in the last several years. And his project is to get photos of all the Tech Club members so we can recognize the face, put the face to the name. So, Tim, you want to just tell them what you're doing with that?
Well, if you're a new member and you don't remember me taking your picture, just flag me down before you leave and we'll get your picture and we'll update that in our directory. So welcome to the club, new members, and let's get you lined up so everybody knows everybody.
Thank you, Tim. So if you haven't already, he's got the papers to fill out so we can match your name with the photo. So before you leave today, maybe you could check in. And Does anyone have any questions or problems or issues? This is the member meeting, yes.
Was on the election committee, and they were talking about trying to get a dedicated computer donated for the election committee, and I'm just wondering if that's a possibility. The anything that might be able to get to the election.
You're asking about a laptop to be donated to the election committee for doing their work. Well, that's what Larry. You have an answer?
The tech club does have one, it's a fairly new one, but I have an old one that I'm more than willing to donate to the election committee. It's actually the tech club's old one. And so the use I had for it has ended, so I'll donate that to the election committee. Okay, that'd be great, thank you.
And I just have to say over and over and over again, what an asset it is for us to have Larry. He is our go-to guy. People call me up as president of the tech club and say, well, how do you do this and how do you do that? And I'm like, well, let me call Larry. Without him, yes, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
As long as it's not apples.
And, yeah, I know Apple, and aside from that, because I have all Apple, yeah, how many of you have Apple computers? Whenever I'm stuck, I call Apple support. It's great, it's free, call them up, and they'll even screen share, so they have a little red arrow, so they do this and that. That, to me, that's worth the price of paying a little extra for Apple, because that help is so necessary. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Russell Broadbent from Heroes here. And he's got a whole entourage. I'm not going to be able to.
Oh, yes, the entourage. I'm Krista Kavanaugh, I'm a holistic healthcare practitioner, and I have hearing aids, and I was looking at Russell's site, and what I really was struck by was he went from working in a corporation to starting his own business. And he did so because of his values. He was saying, I can't spend enough time with people. They want me to move people through, and they care more about the bottom line than they do about, people. And so he said, I went and started my own business. So I look at the integrity of that. And he really believes in giving people time. You've had time with them, right? And so, okay. And so the amount of caring that he has, and then the amount of confidence that he has. So I was interested in that, but what he also found out is when he was during COVID, he was seeing clients decline in health. And that happened for a lot of people. So people were declining in health, and he was like, what else can I do? So he went from just being Heroes of Hearing, a hearing center in Tucson, to Heroes of Hearing, a wellness center in Tucson, because he wanted to help people more than he already was. Oh, I forgot to say, part of his values are too, that family comes first. If you're in his office, there's pictures of his family and his 8 kids, or his children, and I met them recently, and they're so alive, and that's Jenny, Russell's wife. So,
You're my new best friend.
I just like his integrity, and I like who he is as a person. So then when he wanted to work on wellness, me being a holistic healthcare practitioner, I was like, wellness, okay, I'm interested. And he brought a machine to add to what he was already doing around hearing, to help people be more alive, more vital, more pain-free, etc. So I'm just gonna briefly kind of set it up for the the combo hearing, biocharger experience. I remember when I was under 5, I lived in a horseshoe street, and there was only 6 houses up the street. We got to play in the street. Nobody came in, nobody except for us. And all the kids in those 6 houses played together. There was this huge big field out behind us. And I had a dog named Beauty, who quite classy. And our parents would let us go out by ourselves with dogs, and the dog several times went and got people if we needed it. And I remember running on the grass barefoot. My favorite tree was a weeping willow, and I got to, when I was underneath it, somebody couldn't see me in there, but I could see out. And then when after a rainstorm, you know, the air was really clean and the sun was great. Do you remember being a kid and just being outdoors and being barefoot and running around? Anybody besides me? And what kind of feeling did you have when you, after that? What? Freedom. What else?
Healthy,
Huh?
healthy.
Healthy, yeah. What else? Sort of alive. Exactly, it was fun, right? And then you sort of felt alive, and there was like this sense of well-being. It's like, well, we have a virtual campfire in this machine, and it looks at 4 areas. So there's the sunlight that, so it's got vibration of sunlight. It's got some Tesla coils in it, which I know you talked about before. It's got the voltage, like after a lightning storm, you know how it creates negative ions in the air. It's got the Earth's magnetic, putting your feet on, not on concrete, but on the earth. And then it's got frequencies and harmonies. So it really accelerates well-being because you're feeding yourself at a cellular level. So Russell has added this to his practice. And we're wondering, we thought we were talking about the biocharger today, but I think the blurb said that it was hearing. So how many people came to hear about hearing aids? How many people don't care what we talk about? Okay. No. I think I need to at least start with hearing aids and maybe work into the biocharger. So Russell, a man of integrity, that's got the vision and lives and walks his talk. Russell Broadband.
All right. Well, welcome. I see some familiar faces, and we're gonna appreciate you reaching out and having us come and speak. And for all the rest of you here at Sunflower, I'm ecstatic to be here and appreciate you all coming. So instead of throwing like a 180 on you and talking about something else you weren't planning on, we're just going to have fun today. So we're going to get the hearing questions answered, but we also have some other exciting stuff to talk about as well. So with today's session today, I wanted to go over and talk about how solar energies can help in a recharge session, help our wellness and help us physically. And and Kristen did a great job of kind of sharing a little bit about us, our journey, years of hearing. Again, I've been in the hearing industry for over 10 years. I've worked for numerous other companies, and it used to be about patient care and focusing on the patient, and then everything switched to money. And I hated it. I hated going to work because I felt like I was a robot and couldn't connect with my patients and actually listen to them and help them get resolution to the issues and problems that they have. So I've helped over 1,000 people here when it comes to hearing. And then we also we've been lucky to have been voted one of the top 10 hearing clinics here in Tucson, Arizona for the last 4 years. So I'm way excited about that. But there's a problem, and that's the problem I wanted to share. And as Chris had mentioned and talked about how my background's in hearing and helping my patients be able to hear and understand and connect with those around them, I started to notice a problem. This was during COVID. As everybody was stuck inside, I started to notice the decline in my patients' health. They're coming in having more problems, and some of them canceling appointments. And I thought, is there something else that I could do? But then I also thought, well, who am I? Like, I just do hearing, like that's all I need to focus on. And I had a patient come in and he said, hey, I just want you to know that I can't take care of my wife anymore. So I put her in a assisted living space so they can kind of help out. And she's on hospice, and I'm hoping that she'll get better, and then she can come back and then I can take care of her. Well, hospice to me is all about, like, my mother-in-law had cancer. She battled it for 5 years and she passed away, and she went through hospice at the end. So to me, hospice is like a transition, not a, we're going to help you get well and then you can come back. And I said, well, where's she at? Like, I want to come and see her. And he told me where she was at. And I was planning to go see her that Friday. The next day he came back into my office and he just had this look on his face. And I'm like, something's wrong. And he said, you don't need to go see her this Friday. The first thought was, is she in the hospital? Is that why I can't go? Or did she pass away? I said, well, what's going on? He said, she passed away last night. And she was also one of my patients. And that's kind of what did it for me. That was kind of what broke the straw that broke the camel's back. That for me, and then going through all those emotions with my mother-in-law passing away to cancer, is there something else that I could do to help improve the quality of my patients' lives? And so I did extensive research and came across a device called the Biocharger. And that's something that I wanted to share with you guys today because of the power that it has and what it's doing to the body. But when we look at what the problem is in healthcare, they've taken the care out of healthcare. It's frustrating for me when I take my kids and I wait for 3 hours to then see the doctor for about 5 minutes and then not told anything other than go pay your copay. And I don't feel like that's care. And it's really frustrating. And I know many of you have probably been through that, whether you're a veteran or whether you're just on a doctor's appointments, whatever they may be. They've taken the care out of it, and there's a huge problem. And the problem has been, oh, well, we'll just use pharmaceuticals, will help suppress the issues, and that's going to help you feel better, right? But in reality, it doesn't. It just helps suppress it so you feel like you're getting a little bit better, but we're not helping the body truly heal. So, when we start to look at this turning point, like this is where I'm in my practice, and like Chris has said, we kind of switched it to focusing also on wellness. So when we look at hearing devices now, there's a lot of things that have changed. So one of the biggest things that's changed is, as you probably been getting tons of emails and seeing in the news, that the federal government has opened another category of hearing devices, which is called over the counter. So now you can just go to Walgreens, Walmart, wherever you want, grab a set of hearing devices without seeing a professional, without having your hearing evaluated, without having somebody look in your ears to make sure nothing's blocking sound from hitting your eardrum. And that's the new category. The whole premise of this was to help make hearing aids more affordable for those who can afford it. I'm going to be honest with you, from all the meetings that I've been in with hearing aid manufacturers to the laws being passed and everything, there's going to be a lot more confusion because people think that they're getting the same thing and they're not. So it's not like you're going to get the same DVD at Costco that you can pick up at Target and get it cheaper somewhere else, it's the same product, that's not what it is. It's a totally different device. And you don't have any care, so you're trying to figure out how to maneuver and how to use it, and if you have any problems, well, you're gonna contact the manufacturer that makes the hearing device. A lot of insurance companies have been looking at this model and figuring out how they can make it cheaper, so they don't have to pay out as much for your benefit, which I don't like. I don't feel it's honest. I don't like it when you guys are paying into a program for insurance to help you, and they're trying to figure out how they can pay the less out. And their CEO makes over 55 million a year, like that. Sit right with me. But in reality, that's what's happening. And I've seen it in my own practice with some of the insurance companies where they're like, we're going to have you purchase the hearing devices from us, the insurance company, and then we'll ship you the hearing aids. And if you have any problems, just give us a call. If you've ever called the insurance company, then you know that you're probably going to be on hold for about 3 hours, and hopefully they'll be able to answer your call. And I'm not saying this just to pitch me because I'm a hearing practice and I have my own office. To be honest, there's a trade-in, and you're trading in care and having somebody really help you walk through this process to you figuring out on your own. Plus, it's not going to be the exact same device. So those are some of the things with hearing when we look at over the counter. When we start to look at, well, what are the prescriptive devices? What are the other manufacturers doing with all the stuff that's going on? And they're making their hearing aids faster, smarter, and better. I've had patients who have gone to Costco and got Costco hearing devices, and they've come to me because they complain about not being able to hear in a crowd, in a group, and it's just too much noise, and being able to have a total different transformation because I don't sell hearing aids that are at Costco at my practice. And my focus is not on selling hearing aids. My focus is helping my patients walk beside them through this journey to better hearing and a better quality of life. And that's why it's tied in so much to what else can I do for my patients other than just help them hear, because I can help them hear, but their quality of life is really low. Well, what's the benefit of that? Like, am I truly helping them the best that I can? And that's where it's led me into focusing on what is this huge problem that we have, and how can I, with how small that I am, how can I help other people?
Does anybody have any questions about hearing aids you want to ask?
Yeah.
He's an expert, he can talk on that all day, and he wants to talk about the biocharger, but you came for hearing, so do you have questions?
My hearing aids are not chiming every time.
Okay, so with most hearing devices, they're going to let you know when they're turning on. So you take them off the charger, or if you have the battery operated ones, and you close the battery door. Again, they chime to let you know, hey, we're turning on. If you're not hearing the chime when you're putting it in, it possibly could be a few things. One, you could be closing the door and it's taking too long to put it in, so it's already going off before you put it in your ear, so you're not hearing it. Or it could be your filter is starting to get plugged up and you're just not hearing the sound. So
It does it.
Yeah.
Would there be a reason that it just would stop chiming?
no, it's always going to chime every single time. So
But if it's not,
those would be the two things that would cause it. Yeah.
When I put in earplugs, everybody, it tend to fall out, or people's ears fall out and
Correct. So everybody's ear, when we start to look at everybody's ear canal, it's almost like their fingerprint, like it's unique to them. So I have some patients where just due to hereditary, right, it runs in the family, we all have small ear canals. So putting in headphones or regular earbuds or AirPods or whatever they might be don't fit our ear. They keep falling out. They're uncomfortable. So there are custom options where now we can take a mold or an impression of your ear, and then we're going to take that and actually make the mold so it fits perfectly inside your ear. So that way you're not having it slip out or fall out. So most devices are going to have, if you're getting devices that are up over the ear, they're going to have rubber domes that are different sizes. It's more of a universal standard. So we're putting different domes on to make sure that it stays in your ear. But I do have some patients where it doesn't matter what size we go to, it's just the shape of their ear canal or their ear canal starting to prolapse, it's starting to close in on itself. It just makes it harder for the device to stay in, so then we have to go to something. Yep.
Talking about like the AirPod versus AirPod Pro. Have you seen the difference of those?
Not even AirPods, just like any kind of a earbud kind of thing.
Do you have your AirPods?
So,
Show her what they look.
so as far as, if we're looking at like Apple's products, so they have the regular AirPods, which are just, they're all plastic. And then the Pros actually have like a little rubber piece that you can put on to help fit your ear. So we do have, for those that want to use, hey, I want to use my own headphones, or I want to use my own wireless headbuds, and I have, is there something that we can do? Yeah, we can still take an impression, and it's actually a special mode for that your headphones or your AirPods will go into. And then you can put them in your ear and then they don't fall off.
So it's kind of a combination hearing aid and AirPods, so you could talk on the phone and I mean, I know you can connect like a phone, but are there those kind of devices?
So as far as as far as when you get into hearing, yeah, then you're getting into hearing devices that have Bluetooth that can connect with the phone, that can stream your audio, stream your music, right? So it's doing that. Plus it's helping you hear as well.
They take the place of the AirBuds because they stream music, they answer the phone.
Yeah.
They can do your heartbeat, they can translate languages, they can do your taxes, they can do all kinds of stuff. They, yes.
So, but when we start to look at technology, they're putting artificial intelligence into the hearing devices. We're trying to make it easier for you. So without you switching between 3 programs every single time you go into a room, it's automatically surveying what's going on and it's processing that information at the best that you can. So, and then they also have where you can find your hearing devices if you've lost them. And you also can have it translate language where if you're talking with somebody and they're speaking German, French, whatever, you're hearing it in English in your ears. And as you talk back to them in English, it's writing on your phone what that language is for them. And they can read that and say, oh yeah, the phone was down here. So I don't know. My wife speaks Spanish, but I'm not English is my own.
So the idea that I can hear, but I don't understand. You can give me a whole list of words. I don't know any of them.
Right.
So how do you fix that?
So there's a few different things that we're talking about. Are you talking about you have hearing aids and you can't hear or understand these words, or we don't have hearing aids and we can't understand these words?
I have a hearing aid. I don't understand the list of words that they give me. I don't get any of them. I don't know what they are.
So there's a few things that we're looking at. So when I have some patient that comes to my office, we're testing where their hearing's at. So we know exactly, again, where your thresholds are, right? Where's the softest that you're hearing these sounds? We're also testing your cognitive ability. So if I make it loud enough, how much are you able to understand? So I found that like normally when we start to look at hearing loss, when we're in our 50s and 60s, we're actually losing our hearing, but we don't realize it. It's just a slow, gradual process, and we might not catch a word, so we're asking other people to repeat. But then as we get into our 70s, 2 out of 3 have some type of hearing loss. And then as we get, the longer that we wait, the harder it is on the brain, because then the brain atrophies, it forgets how to process the sound. Right? So there's a lot of questions that I have with a lot of things going on in my mind with your question. One, where's your understanding at? Like if you're going through a list of words and you're getting 10% of the words, when I take your hearing aids out and I put you in a booth and I make it loud enough and you're understanding 80%, well, something's wrong, right? And with some hearing devices, they're not smart enough to process background noise or feedback. So what will happen is a lot of times the practitioners will just drop the volume. So now what happens is you lose the clarity. So with your hearing aids, you're not hearing as well. Or they're getting dirty to where the sound's not coming in or coming out, and that could be the issue too. So I don't know if it's the hearing devices. I don't know if it's your understanding the words. That's why we have to go through some testing to find out what's going on. But if you feel like, oh, I got the hearing aids and I'm still not understanding everything, it could be because a lot of the clarity is in the higher frequencies. So if we're not hitting target in the higher frequencies, then you're not hearing the F, the S, the TH sounds. And that's where you're going to miss those words because you're getting parts of them still. So it could be the hearing devices, or it could be just our cognitive where our understanding the words are at, brain just atrophy.
And so your hearing aids are different than over-the-counter ones, and they can focus not on just making stuff louder, but then you get all the background noise, which I hate when I'm wearing these. And it drives me crazy when I'm hearing plates, clatter, and all that stuff. Versus you have hearing aids that you can focus in just on the words to help people have conversation better, which is what people want. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then you don't want to hear all the dishes clanking and everything. But you also have to look at what's happening. So it depends on how old your hearing device, right? What's the computer chip in your hearing aid really doing? And this is what's hard because you see a hearing device and you're like, oh, that looks the same as this other one. And my own father-in-law had that same issue. Like he called me one day when I was in Chicago and he said, hey, I just wanted to know I got a hearing device. Went to my insurance and I'm getting it next week. And I said, well, that's great, Ken, but I can help you out. You know, he said, oh, I don't want to bother you. And to make a long story short, they flew out to Chicago to see us. And I'm excited because my father finally got hearing aids and I wanted to see how he's hearing. And I say to him, hey, Ken, how are you hearing with your new hearing aids? What? Your new hearing aids. How are you hearing with them? What? I looked to see if they're in his ears. They are. I looked at my mother-in-law because she was still alive at the time, and she's going like this. And I'm like, this is not right. Like, you don't get hearing aids and can't hear. And I said, how's work? What? I'm like, okay, I'm not going to repeat myself 400 times. Like, let's get in the car. We made a detour to my office and I cleaned his hearing aids up, which helped a lot. But I did a bunch of tests and I found that his hearing aids weren't even hitting target. They weren't even loud enough for where his hearing loss was. So, and he complained that while I'm at work, I go to the cafeteria for lunch, all I hear is noise everywhere. I can't understand the guy next to me. And he left and they visited for, a few days and then left. And I said to Jenny, I said, I want your dad to hear better. Let's surprise him with better hearing aids, give him an early Christmas present. So I had everything I needed. I shipped him out to him and totally surprised him. And he called me and said, hey, I got this box of new hearing aids. Like, what's going on? And I told him, and I said, I want you to hear better. I'm going to call you in 2 days and I want to follow up. So I followed up in 2 days and I said, Kim, how are you hearing with these hearing aids? He said, Russell, this is night and day. What do you mean night and day? Like, you told me you could hear with your other hearing aids. Like, help me understand this. He said, well, I could hear with my other hearing aids better than without having anything. But I thought I was going to have to hear the rest of my life like that. I had no idea I could hear this great. I said, oh, well, how are you hearing in the cafeteria? He said, I can understand the guy next to me. So all hearing devices are not the same. Really what you're paying for is that computer chip that's inside that's processing the sound. And there's some devices that don't do it. And for me, I don't want patients to keep coming in every week because they're having issues and problems. And so I want you to have a better device. But now that we have over the counter, now everything's it's just another, it's just gonna be even more crazy. Because now when you come in and you say, hey, here's my over the counter devices, help program these. It's like, I can't program them. They're over the counter, so you do it on your own. I can clean them up, but that's probably about all that I can do there. Did you have a question? Anybody else have a question in regard to?
A couple. There seems to be advertising by some companies that their hearing aid will suppress like tinnitus, the ringing in the ears. Is that possible with a hearing aid? Can they do that?
So there are some devices. So it all depends on you. I've had some patients where they come in, we fit them with the hearing devices. Do you still hear your ringing? They take them out. Oh yeah, it's still there. I've had some patients where it goes away, they don't hear it at all. I have others where whether you take it in or out, they still hear the ringing. So that's been around for quite a bit. There are hearing devices where we can kind of help drown that out. But that's why I've gone through all these different stages, because we went with one company which focused on habituation, where now what happens is I'm going to pitch match your ringing. You're going to listen to it at night. So then your brain says, oh, we're not in danger. That's what that sound is. I don't want to hear it. And then it starts to take it away. Well, the problem is what's causing your ringing, right? It could be medication. It could be loud noise exposure. I had one patient, she went through that process and she's like, it's gone. And then she called me 3 days later. She says, it's back and it's louder than ever. And come to find out, she was on medication. She'd have to put a patch on every week and it would change her ringing. So her ringing would be changing. So it's like, you know how frustrating that would be to, oh, now I got to go back in and try to get a pitch match. That company went out of business during COVID. So, and then they got bought out and now they're back in business, but I'm not looking to use them because I can't trust that they'll be around. So one of the things with the Biocharger is there actually is something for tinnitus. I haven't had a chance to pull a group together to test it, to see how many sessions do we need to go through. But some of the other holistic healthcare professionals that are in the community that have one of these machines, I asked her and she said, I have a lady who has ringing. After 10, 12 sessions, her ringing went away. I haven't had a chance to follow up to see, hey, is it still there? Did it come back? So there's a lot of stuff that I'm still testing out because this is still new to me. But a lot of it depends, right? Is it the medication that we're taking that's causing the ringing, or is it something else that's causing it? Does that answer your question?
A month of the Biocharger. And there was 3 of us, so we were doing different things. We weren't just focused on tinnitus. And again, the Biocharger is helping your cells work and helping your body remember how it's supposed to work. And when you start from the little and go to the bigger, it's like it's feeding its natural energy, and then the body resonates the way that it's supposed to. But 2 of the 3 of us had tinnitus. I do not. My honey John does, and my friend who came with us also had some. And even though Russell only did the tinnitus program twice, I think, because we were doing general health stuff, both of them, their tinnitus improved.
Yeah. Right. So I'm focused on not putting a Band-Aid on it. I'm focused on, is there a way we can help the body recognize it and help get rid of it? Right. And some patients, the hearing device will do that. Others, it doesn't. So then I'm looking for other alternatives to figure out what we can do. But you'll see a lot of advertisements like that. You'll see a lot of advertisements saying, hey, $500 devices, these are the best ever, and trying to get you in. Then they do the bait and switch and try to sell you $5,000 to $6,000 hearings. Like I've been in the industry for over 10 years. I don't like that, because you are coming in thinking this is going to solve my problem, and it doesn't. And then you feel like you've been tricked. And so a lot of that's why I left a lot of those other companies.
I got a question about the technology of the units themselves. If you have a behind the ear unit and you have an in the ear canal unit, the behind the ear have a little tube that goes, of course, into the ear. If you have a unit that fits in the ear canal, it seems like it eliminates that step in the hearing aid process. From your experience, is one type better than the other?
So the question is one type better compared to in the ear or up over the ear? It depends on where your hearing loss is, to be honest. And that's one of the things I'm looking at. Like if your hearing loss is, yeah, so I'll get more detail on that later.
The severity of the loss.
But it depends on where you're. So for example, if you're hearing the low frequencies really well, you're still in the normal range. I put a device that in a sense plugs you up. You're going to feel plugged up. You're going to hear your own voice more. It just takes you a little bit longer to adapt to it. So for those patients, we would switch to something more up over the ear. But you were talking about a tube, and there are some up over the ear where you have a tube and the sound comes out of the top of the hearing aid, goes down the tube. And that's a style that's really, really old, like post 10 years. I'm used to it's called a RIC, which is a receiver in the canal. It's a wire that goes to a speaker, and that speaker sits in your ear. So now you're not having wax get plugged up in the tube and get it kinked, and now you're not hearing. A lot of the over-the-counter devices, they have just a tube. It doesn't have the wire. It's a totally different device, but.
So you have the RIC?
Well, I mean, no, it's the way you described it. It's just that it's this that goes to the speaker. But,
It's a wire.
pardon?
It's a wire.
Yeah, it's
You're in the right place.
Yeah, so that's where the speaker is right there.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it just depends. I've had some patients where they're tired of wearing the mask, and then they lose the hearing aid because they put the mask on wrong, and then it hooks the hearing aid, it pulls it out of their ear, and so they've switched to custom devices, and some of them I love them, some of them not so much. So it really depends on the patient. The good thing with going like to a professional is that if you get a device, there's a window. So for some reason, if we did a custom device, you don't like it, we can switch back or switch to up over the ear. And you're not getting stuck feeling like, oh, I gotta live with this the rest of my life. But if you don't tell me, you're like, oh, this is great, and you're not satisfied, well, now that window closes and I can't exchange it, I can't do things. It makes it harder for me, so.
So what you're saying is the difference between in the ear and over the ear is personal preference, not necessarily prescription, or a little bit of both.
We look at both of them.
Is that clear as mud?
on these. If I take and push it in further, it's louder. It seems like it's clear, but it doesn't, that's not the normal way that it fits in my ear. If I take my finger away, then I lose that amplification. Is that normal, or is that something wrong with the ear?
Whenever, so it could be a few things. So if you're the speaker closer to your eardrum, it's definitely gonna sound louder. Just like if I put my AirPods in and then I push on them, it's gonna, oh wow, like it sounds louder to me because now I'm pushing that source closer to my eardrum. If you're not putting your hearing aid in all the way and it's sticking out here, then yeah, then you're not gonna hear as well. There's a process we go through at the office when we put them in. It's called reeler measurement, and this lets me know what the hearing aids are sending to the eardrum so we can make sure we're hitting target. So that's important, because if I let the computer decide what it's going to do, yeah, there's going to be some frequencies we're not hitting target and others where it's too loud and it's tinny, distorted. So this really lets us fine tune it. But it all depends. Like if we're struggling to put it in, then it could be we have the wrong size dome, or it could be maybe we do need to go with something more custom, right? And there's devices that go over the ear. Instead of having the rubber dome, we can take a mold and now it fits your ear and it slides right on in. So, but we'll always start with the rubber domes just to see do these work, right? That way you don't have an extra cost to pay for a custom mold for that.
So with yours, it could be not turned up loud enough, or the domes could be the wrong size if you have to force them in. Is that about right?
But if you're pushing them in, yeah, no matter what device I have in my ear, if I push it in, it's gonna sound louder because it's getting closer to the eardrum.
Well, can it be fitted so that it's closer, like with my finger pushing on it? I mean, now, there's a lot of amplification. I take my finger out and now, I mean, it's still have some.
Would it be better to turn them up?
So there's a few things. One, so yes, the one of it's getting fit correctly, right? You don't need to have them deep in your ear canal. They should just be sitting where they're inside, the wires up against the side of your head. And the hearing device should be loud enough to where you're hearing and understanding the best that you can. So if that's not happening, if they haven't done reeler measurement, then yeah, that's why we might not be hearing as well as we could be, or it could be it's getting plugged up. Or when was the last time we had them professionally cleaned or saw had our hearing evaluated. I've had patients move from Colorado and they're like, I found you, I've had these hearing aids for, 5 years, I hate them, like, I've never worn them even since I got them. I'm like, well, that's not normal. And I clean them up and we go through the process and we do ruler measurement, we do their test, we put the prescription in, and all of a sudden she said, wow, this is better than when I got them first time.
And that's what you get from somebody who's
So-
willing to spend time with you instead of, okay, I have to get people through here because I have a. He spends a lot of time and answers specific questions and makes it a resolution that fits you. So you had a question back here, didn't you?
I was just wondering, in the future, in 10 years, what will be the new high hearing aid?
It's a good question, right? I know there's been talks about putting chips on your eardrums, then you don't have to have anything up over your ear, right? But then how's it gonna get powered? And there's all these other questions. They talked about, how do we grow the hair cells back in the cochlea? Like chickens can do it, why can't we? So do we do stem cells? Do we do, right? So there's science and things that they're looking at doing to improve that. But when we start to look at hearing, there are different parts than just the ear, right? Because as those hair cells wear out, the signal gets weaker to the brain starts to atrophy. So if I then get the signal to the brain and it's already atrophied, then it's like a foreign language. It doesn't know how to process the sound. So then is it something where we just go to a device or something we wear that ties right into the brain and, goes right to that? Or so that's a good question. And as far as advancements in technology, a lot of the manufacturers keep that hush hush because they don't want it to leak out and have even more competition, right? So they kind of wait and hold that stuff, but there's a lot of possibilities. The biggest thing is it's not waiting. That's the problem that I see the most. I have a patient she's 95 years old. This is the first time she's ever worn hearing aids. She went to another place here in town. They told her that she had 12% understanding the words. So they said, there's nothing we can do. Her daughter said, well, I need to get a second opinion. And she came in and saw me. I looked in her ears. She had a bunch of wax in her ears. Right? So, and that's her going to like another place. Imagine if she got them over the counter and had a bunch of stuff in her ears. Like she had no idea. I've had patients where they've gone to the doctor and I cleaned your ears out, and we look in with a camera. You see what I see when I look in your ear. So there's none of this, I cleaned your ears when I didn't. You get to see it. So we cleaned her ears out with her and we were able to help her. She actually had 42% understanding, which is better than 12. But still, do you want to hear 42% of the words or do you want to hear 100%? And those that wait longer, they struggle a lot more with hearing devices because they're not used to it. And then their brains atrophy to the point where they're not at 100%. So it becomes really challenging.
Can you tell me what a cost would be for a set of rechargeable hearing aids? The low end price and how expensive?
You bet. So, so the question is, with rechargeable hearing devices, what's the price range? And a lot of it depends on what are we looking at, right? So we want to compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. A lot of times, like traditionally, you're paying for the hearing device or service like all packaged into one. So if you have a 3-year warranty, like you're taken care of for the next 3 years, right? So that's going to be a different price than it is with insurance and everything's doing now. They're just separating that and they're just having you buy the hearing aid from them. And that could be $2,000 to the insurance just for just the hearing aid. It could be more or less than that. So I've seen they're just, and all devices aren't the same. So with some insurance companies, their devices can range from $375 up to $2,500 for just one hearing. A lot of the over-the-counter devices, they're pricing them at like $900 for the pair. So if you lose one of your hearing devices and you get over the counter, you can't go just buy one hearing device. You have to buy the whole package and get 2 more devices for that $900. And it doesn't have a 2-3 year warranty. It has a 1-year warranty. And you have no loss of damage. So if you lose it, damage it, like you're just paying out of pocket. So I don't know if that helps. But if you're wanting like a full coverage and care and like you don't have to worry about paying every single time you come in, that can range from about 4,000 all the way up to 8,000, depending on type of hearing device. But we're also looking at taking care of you for 3, 4, 5 years, not it being just a 1 or 2 year thing.
Valuation fee. Valuation, what would the cost be?
So right now, we have a special online for $299, $297, I think it is. We'll go through the full evaluation, look at here, the wax, we'll remove the wax, so that's kind of a benefit. It's only about $90 for us to go in and remove the wax. And then you get your test results and if you get devices, then we can apply that to your devices, so you don't feel like you're losing anything. But it's different. You can go to other places and they can do a free test, but you're not going to get your test results. They're going to skip a lot of stuff. So
Can I also brag on this cute drink of water? Also, one of the things, Russell is going to look at where your prescription is, your hearing prescription, and he's going to say, this is what I recommend for you. If you want to get the bells and whistles and translate the language, fantastic. But I'm going to recommend what is going to work best for you. He's not going to try to upsell you just to get the sale. And one of the things that I've had a lot of people comment that they love is that there are new devices that actually have fall detection, so that you can have a loved one on your account, or I don't know exactly how it does it, but we've had patients who have fallen and their children who don't live close to them have gotten an alert so that they can get somebody there. Because because their parent, so
Yeah, but it says it does.
we're not going to test it. We're not going to test it. But because their parents so desperately want that independence, but they both have that peace of mind knowing that you don't have to wear the button or reach to where you have the life alert button. It does it automatically. So, but he's going to only sell you what you need.
When in there, people come in and they just want to see him and hang out with somebody who's positive, but he's giving them service after the fact. So it's not like, when man, you're gone, that's too bad. It's, I'm going to keep working with you, keep cleaning them, keep adjusting them so they fit. There's a question here.
And that's important, because if you just get devices and that's it, your hearing is going to change. So if the prescription is changing, the hearing aids don't know that, you're not going to hear as well. If they're getting plugged up, you're not going to hear as well. So that's why I'm more proactive. And yeah, I want to see my patients every about 3 to 4 months, make sure they're cleaned. And so we're not running into these issues. But I know there's some patients where they don't want to do that. They only want to come in twice a year. Right. So we help show them how to clean their hearing devices and kind of empower them as well.
So this gentleman has a question. I'm going to give the handouts that for the presentation we talked about today. And so you can just pass them around. There's 3 sheets. We're going to put them on the table, and you can maybe answer 2 more questions, then maybe 5 minutes on the hour.
I know we're getting close on.
I have to say something.
All right, so hold on, I got your question in just a second.
At what point do you recommend coating your implant?
So very good question. Most of the time, if I see a patient who their hearing's all the way at the very, very bottom of the audiogram, right? A hearing aid, we can't make it loud enough to get to the cochlea, then I send them to like an ear, nose, and throat. And then that's where they start to go through that process of having the surgery and doing,
But it's primarily with sound, not with cognition, correct?
So would the cochlear help understand the hear, but I don't understand? Would the cochlear take care of that?
That's kind of out of my wheelhouse. I don't focus on that. I had a couple of deaf patients in Chicago. One he had a cochlear implant done. He didn't want his wife to go into it. So really, it's talking to the doctor, talking to the patient that had it done. You know, you watch the videos online where you see a baby who has had, hasn't been able to hear, and now they get a cochlear implant, now they can hear. You really just want to be informed, get more information, right? If your hearing is like in the middle of the audiogram, you don't need a cochlear implant. right? If I make it loud enough to get the signal to the cochlea, you're still struggling to hear, cochlear implant is not gonna fix that. All a cochlear implant does is it takes place of those hair cells in the cochlea, so they can get the message to the brain, so the brain can process.
I'm looking at that, it's probably not what the. Last year, about me, the man here, done a tremendous job, the man and his wife, they both have integrity. And I also did the bio project, something that did the PSPG, and you know, I mean, all the vets here are aware of a lot of the stuff that goes on down there. And I've actually gotten better service and much when I have it with VA. So, that's one of the, up that down.
Thank you, John, I appreciate that. So yeah, so it really all depends. And you had a question about Medicaid or Medicare?
Oh, Medicare.
So traditionally, no. I know a lot of laws are changing and things are changing like that. They have some type of agreement with the insurance company. So if the insurance company does offer it, or if you have a supplemental that covers it, you might have some type of benefit.
So only covering. Medicare that 80% and supplement 20%, it has to be, you would take Medicare.
Yeah, and I personally don't. I personally don't take it. I've dropped a lot of the insurance companies, and I'll be totally transparent and honest with you. It's very frustrating to run a business when it takes you 3 to 4 to 5 months to get paid from the insurance company and to get a couple $100. For the time that I spend you're doing your initial evaluation, it's not a 5-minute thing. But here they say, oh, well, we'll pay $10 for that. Right? And if I'm getting paid $10, then yeah, then you wouldn't see me for more than like 5 seconds. And because I can't run a business, I can't run a practice on that. But I don't want to go down that hole. So that's why that road, that's why I just don't. So.
Russell. I just want to tell the people here, I found him by accident. Huh? I found Russell by accident through my insurance. I had gone to other hearing clinics, popular ones, and I want to tell you something. He's got the equipment to let you see what you need to see. But he won me on my first visit because he spent 3 hours cleaning out my ears. The other people told me my ears were fine, they were clean. And so he has that kind of dedication. He didn't get out of his office till it was 7:30 at night. He's wonderful.
We did get the wax out, so yeah. But no, I appreciate your time. If you have some questions, feel free to grab me after this. I know we're over time.
So
I'd love to come back and share a little bit more about these energies and what the Biocharger does and how it actually helps the cells and helps reduce inflammation, and it helps with depression. It helps with so many different things that you're not being poked and prodded. We're not doing surgery. It's all uninvasive, and people are starting to see results from it, which I haven't had a chance to share, but it's been really, really neat. Just one story now, and I wanted to have a group to kind of test this machine to see does it even work, right? Because I was skeptical as well. And one of my patients brought her husband, and he has Parkinson's, so he's just he's shaking, and we did a session, and after we did the session, like his pinky was just barely moving, and he was way excited to get home because he hadn't been able to feed himself or eat because of the shaking. And all of this was done without any medication or any surgery or anything like that. It was just.
in one session, he stopped shaking and he was so excited, he wanted to go home so he could feed himself by himself. Now, it didn't last forever, but taking one pill doesn't last forever, and eating one meal doesn't last forever, and going to the gym one time doesn't last forever.
Darn it.
But that's pretty exciting. He was like, oh my God, I get to go home and feed myself. And I just talked to a guy in his office last week who has kidney pain, and he has one kidney removed. And he was like, can I do something? And he went on the Biocharger and he didn't feel anything so much right then. And then the next day, he's like, oh my gosh, I haven't been in pain. Again, it didn't last forever, but the fact that he could notice a difference after one session and have the pain reduced is pretty amazing. So we're at our time here, but we're going to stay a few minutes longer if you want to talk about the Biocharger. And I just want to tell you the handouts. So this is benefits from the Biocharger, and it's telling the 4 areas, checkies, you should love these 4 areas of what you're getting. And then on this side, it's the one that says benefits from Biocharger. On this side, these are things that people have said they've gotten from having a session or 2 or 3, whatever it is over here, and you can check off, oh, but I'd like to have less of that. And then this is the one that says look better, feel better, be better, is we're trying to get a sense of what are the issues that people have in their life. We have a good number of them. And that's the pain that we feel in our life, but how do you get pulled to pleasure? And here's some things you can have if you don't have the pain. If you can't hear, you're not going to get to the pleasure side. If you're in pain, you're not going to get to the pleasure side. So this is like, oh, really? I could have more fun. I could have wonder. I could have intuition. Oh my gosh. So this is like here's where I am and here's where I want to be. And the Biocharger can help, as can hearing aids that work. And this one is, these are the things off the website. Here's the areas of where people get helped with the Biocharger: relief, performance, sleep, who doesn't want better sleep, peace, focus, recovery, flexibility, comfort, energy, happiness, because the things are working and your body's going, woohoo, I'm getting the nutrients I need at a cellular level, things work better. And then there are some packages we have on the back. So there's 3 handouts for you. And if you came for the hearing part, I think we're done with that, unless you have, I think Jenny can probably answer some questions while just one-on-one. If you want to stay for a few minutes and hear about the Biocharger, you could talk about the 4 areas.
I'm seen. Are we?
Are we gonna end the meeting?
Somebody just wants to talk about hearing aids. Okay, who's willing to stay and find out about Biocharger? We have,
Okay, how much time we got?
and anyone who.
Another hour, goodness.
No,
We'll get done, but. All right.
Look how many of you there are. I don't know.
No, you did.
Sorry.
Here.
Did I break it? I broke it?
Yep.
Okay, here. So he's gonna fix this and I'm gonna tell a joke because I broke everything. Oh. Hello, I'm Jenny, I'm the wife. And I love to talk to people that are grown-ups because we have 8 children. Yes, amen. And our oldest is almost 16, our youngest is 2.5. So anytime I can talk to grown-ups is fabulous. So thank you for letting us come. And I'm so sorry I closed the computer and I apparently broke it. He does the technology at our house and I chased. So, but I did want to say, to continue on with the hearing really quick, when we lived in Chicago, Russell had the patients, 2 patients actually come in to get negative hearing aids. But they had an issue because they actually had been in a car accident not too long before this. And it was the trauma from the car accident that caused the hearing loss. And so they should have been able to, not to say this in a bad way, like go after the insurance company, right? So the insurance company should provide the hearing devices. However, they did not have a baseline. They couldn't prove where their hearing was before the accident. So the insurance company said, you can't prove it, so we're not going to cover anything. And we use that story a lot just to encourage everyone, whether you feel like you need devices right now or not, it is really important to find out where your hearing is so you can track it. We suggest that everybody gets an annual exam, just as you would, well, I guess teeth are biannually, but we try to go into the eye doctor every year because your eyes slightly change, right? And the hearing devices are different. An amplifier versus a hearing device is your readers versus your bifocals or trifocals. They both will help, but which one helps more? So, is that me? So anyway, did you fix it? We really suggest that everyone sees the hearing professional at least once a year to find out where your hearing is, to find out if it's a sound issue that you may be having or a cognitive issue. Like he said, sound or your hearing is two parts: the volume of the sound and your brain's ability to interpret that sound. And he'd had another patient in Chicago who came in, he said, you're not understanding enough, you really need to get devices. And he said, oh, I'll wait. He came in, what, a year later, 2 years later? He had been, anyway, 2 years later, you tell the story.
So I tested his hearing, he was at 92%, right? Understanding the word, but when he got loud enough, he understood 92% of the words. And he said, well, let me talk to my wife. And then I followed up a few times and never got back to me. And 2 years later, he calls me and says, hey, Russell, my hearing's changed. I need to get in. And his hearing had dropped a little bit, but technically we just make it a little bit louder. At target, he should still be at 92%. But he wasn't at 92%. He had dropped to 72%. So now him getting hearing devices 2 years later, he's going to understand 72% of the words compared to the 92 he would have been able to get had he treated it 2 years previous. So I'm not, like I said, just focused on just hearing aids. We're focused on your ability to understand. And I'll be honest, I have some patients that I discovered they're not wearing their hearing aids. They come in for their annual test and I test them and I'm like, why is their understanding? Why is it dropping? And I look at their hearing aids and your hearing aids will tell me what you had for dinner. No, they don't tell you that. They'll tell me again how long you're on. And so I'm noticing they're really not on at all. And I said, well, I noticed you're not wearing your hearing aids. And they're like, what? How does it know that? How do you know that? And why? Like, why aren't we? Well, I'm a widow. I'm home alone. It's COVID. I don't go out. I just turn the TV on louder. Like, but we miss the whole point of the purpose of why we wear the devices. It's not just to put on when we want to go out. It's to help keep your brain auditorily active so that 92% stays at 92% and doesn't drop. And I had a patient in Chicago who she actually was 100 years old and her hearing aids were 5 years old. It was time for her to get new ones. And I'm like, she's not going to get new ones. She's 100 years old. I hear people in their 60s saying they're dying tomorrow. So, but I told her, you know what? You actually need a hearing aid. She said, let's do it. And I was like blown away. After the first week of wearing these new devices, I said, how's everything going? She says, Russell, I'm hearing so much clearer. I love this. I love this. And it just blew me away. But she had been wearing hearing aids for quite some time. And her understanding of the words was still rather high because she treated it sooner than herself.
Does the ability to understand vary depending on who's talking?
Yes. So if I have a
Maybe my wife needs speech therapy.
another service we don't have. I'll always have the spouse come in with you because I'm trying to figure out, is she soft spoken, right? And if she's soft spoken or she's just not clear, then yes, right? Then I let you know, yeah, it's not you, it's right. Have a conversation. Correct.
Depends on how, where your hearing loss is. So mine is higher. So my mom, who speaks softly and has a higher voice, is harder to hear than John, who has a lower voice. So look at that too.
Yeah, so if you have a high frequency hearing loss, you're going to struggle with female and children voices because their voices, their timbre and their voice is a higher pitch. So
That's something on Tesla before.
yeah, let me sidetrack and just jump into that. So one of the best quotes that I love, Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. A lot of you know Nikola Tesla. He you know, everybody says that Edison was the one that gave us electricity, actually it was Nikola Tesla. We talk about communication, being able to talk to people overseas and everything. That was actually patents from Nikola Tesla. He just had such a brilliant mind that he saw different things. And it's amazing. One of my favorite stories is where he created, and I'll show you what the Biocharger looks like so you can see the Tesla coil, but he created these huge Tesla coils and he put light bulbs in the ground. And just by turning that on, it lit all the light bulbs and they weren't attached to any wires or anything. And his goal was to illuminate the world with free electricity. Right? Could you imagine just not having an energy bill? Like I would love that, right? But as we know, with a lot of patents, a lot of inventions, other companies buy those things and they hide them away because they want to, unfortunately, keep getting money. So, so when we talk about these energies, there's 4 different energies. There's light, there's harmonics, frequency, there's voltage, there's PEMF. And these are the different energies. So all those handouts we gave you, that's they go into a little bit more detail. As we go to the next slide, electromagnetic frequency is what PEMF is. And it's actually been around for quite some time. It's just not well known, right? Because if you go to a surgeon, they're going to tell you we need to do surgery. Go to a doctor, they're going to tell you we need to give you medication, we need to give you, you know, pills. But there is a cool thing that happens with PEMF and what it can do to the body and helping these cells work correctly. And I'm going to jump into that here in just a little bit.
According to figures released by the Institute of Medicine, more than 100 million Americans suffer from chronic pain, costing the U.S. economy roughly $600 billion and loss of productivity. Poor diet, lack of exercise, harmful electromagnetic fields from electronics, toxic chemicals, air pollutants, and environmental factors have all been proven to contribute to chronic pain and illness. The key lies right under our noses, hidden within the very cells of our body. When we look at the human cell, it functions much like a capacitor, accumulating and holding an electrical charge. Just as a cell phone battery holds a charge, the cells within our body are no different. According to recent research, as voltage begins to drop, disease begins to manifest. Thus, optimal health is always defined by voltage. There are essentially 3 ways to re-energize our cells. 1, physical exercise. 2, natural spring water. 3, raw nutrition. However, these 3 things alone are not always enough. We can quickly bring ourselves back into balance when we add cellular exercise. Cellular exercise is based on the principles of pulsed electromagnetic field technology. Used worldwide and as a standard therapy in Europe for decades, PEMF dates back to improved research from thought-leading innovators such as Nikola Tesla. In 1979, the FDA approved PEMF for use in stimulating bone growth, and in 1987 for adjunct therapy to treat postoperative edema and pain. In 2004, PEMF was used as an adjunct to cervical fusion surgery, and in 2011 for treatment in depression for patients unresponsive to medication. NASA used PEMF to reverse the bone loss and muscle degeneration experienced by astronauts. Today, cellular exercise is now available to the masses as the next step in the evolution of PEMF.
All right, so some of the benefits that we look at, again, is reduced inflammation in the body, faster healing, improved immune health, blood oxidation, right? So there's the reduced pain, there's all these things because now the cells in our body can start to work correctly. When we start to look at voltage, and so I really like this slide. If you look over on the right side, you see the little green, young, healthy cell. Well, it's about 70 millivolts. So, and as we lose voltage in our cells, then we start to have inflammation, then we start to have, other things start to occur, and what they noticed is cancer cell, the millivolts are about 15, right? And then eventually it multiplies and dies. So, most of our cells, again, they're trying to work right, but if they're holding on to waste, they're not getting rid of waste, right? So we can have all these problems start stacking on top of each other. And then what happens is our body's not absorbing the nutrients it needs. It's not getting rid of the waste that it needs to. Things are getting plugged up. Things aren't working correctly. And then all of a sudden we start to get disease and cancer. So these are all of the things that are happening. So when we look at the voltage that the machine is doing, it's actually helping that voltage get through the membrane so it can charge these cells. And the benefits of that, again, you still get that pain reduction, you get better cognitive function, you get rejuvenation, you get the nutrients to now get into the cell, because now the cells are working, they're working correctly. And it's interesting when you start to look at, for example, blood cells, blood cells are these plump, round, I almost think of it as a grape, right? Full of water and able to function and work right. And then what happens is when it deflates like a raisin, well, now it's not working correctly. It's not letting the nutrients in, it's not letting it out like it needs to, and then it can start to create issues with the body.
Question. Is this a device that you hook up to and turn on the knob or what?
So that's a very good question. So this is the device that you sit around. So you don't hook up. There are other devices for like PMF that you actually wear, but this is uninvasive. So we're not.
Biocharger, what is it? Just a psychoanalysis thing?
It's a machine. I'm going to show you that in just a little bit. That way you can kind of see what it looks like and what it's doing.
Full campfire.
Yeah. And what it's doing is it's actually doing 4 different types of therapies at once. These are all different types of therapies. The other one is frequency and harmonics. As we know with an opera singer who has a crystal glass and they sing at the resonance of that crystal glass, it causes that crystal glass to vibrate. And if they do it long or loud enough, then it causes it to break. All matter has a different frequency. Inside our body, different cells have different frequencies. And what's interesting is how we can take these frequencies that have been out of tune to then kind of get them in tune. And it has a whole lot of benefits as well. Better mood and cognition. Right now we're getting into more of what happens inside the brain. Reduce pain again, increased energy, and your recovery is accelerated because of that. And then the last one is photonic light. And when we start to look at what photonic light therapy does, it's actually opening the pores in your skin to allow the energies to get into the body and to help and to help the skin and the cells absorb these energies. And that type of therapy helps with skin health, right? Healing and restoration and better sleep quality, better mood enhancement, rejuvenation, everything that's on here, like that's what this is doing. And then it helps with build muscle tissue. And so your question is, what is this machine? So let me take you behind the scenes of what the machine is and what it looks like. Everybody, this is what we're doing. We're going to go inside the recharge room. So I think we just kind of follow me. We're going to go inside of here. And we have the Biocharger, which actually helps recharge the cells in the body. It also does 3 other different therapies as well. This is the Biocharger here. I do have it turned off. And what it's doing is it's actually going to the cellular level. So the cells in your body are helping rejuvenate them, recharge them, and help them function and work correctly. And one of the things that we're doing in the session is you're just sitting, relaxing, and allowing just this machine to do its job, right? Which is to help you become healthier. Just wanted to show you the machine, and I'm gonna turn it on, and you kind of in behind the scenes access to what it looks like and what is actually happening.
Also, would this help somebody with most MS?
Possibly can. Right, so there is over a thousand
She didn't hear the
different
question.
recipes. A lot of times we're gonna focus on the whole body at the beginning, but if there's certain areas we need to focus in on, we definitely can.
Can you-
So her question was, would this help with MS? So, some of the things that people have been saying, one of the people was Renee. She had actually had Lyme disease and went to her doctor. Her doctor said, take this medication, and she actually started losing her eyesight. And he told her doctor, and the doctor said, keep taking the medication, and it just got worse. And she's like, this is not right. There's something wrong. I need to do something else. And she left and went to Mexico and got into more energy and crystals and just like, how can I help my body function without taking medication that wasn't working? Her eyesight was able to come back. She's been to a couple different places here in Tucson, and her thing was, this is powerful. This was more powerful than any of the other devices that I've tried. And she just did it for just 30 minutes. It was a 30-minute session for her. So it was one time for her because we were doing a test group, just to see how long the symptom, like did it come back and things like that. So I haven't had a chance to get back with her to have her come back in. But like Kristen said, it's like going to the gym. You're not gonna get healthy and just go to the gym once. You're actually, sometimes you'll go through a detox, you'll go kind of the opposite way a little bit as your body kind of gets used to it. And then all of a sudden you start to see the benefits a little bit longer. One of the questions that somebody has asked is, well, how long does it take? Some patients can notice either during the session or after, but to have a major shift in your physiology and your body, it can take about 8 weeks. So, and that's 2-3 times a week.
The only way to judge that is individual. The person saying, I'm feeling these changes. You have no way to test.
We do have a machine that I brought it today, but I don't think we're gonna have time, but I can actually look up and see how stressed the body is. It also lets me know what your biological age, or your are we aging faster than we should be? Because stress it's something that hinders the body from rejuvenating, and that's one of the things that we want to do is help the body work correctly. So
Computer program you get hooked up to for 10 minutes shows, your actual age, but it tells you your biological age, not just your chronological. Mine was 4 years younger before the session. After the session, whoop, it was 20 years younger. So my doctor was like, oh yeah.
Is there such a thing as getting too much electronic magnetic field? Like.
so yeah, so if you get too much, then you can start to feel like a headache, or does it have any like negative effects other than that? No. But we're not having you sit in front of the Biocharger for 4 hours. This is like a 45-minute session where we're doing 3 different types of recipes. So is what they call them. They call them recipes.
So each recipe, each thing you want to focus on has a different duration of a session. Maybe tinnitus is 15 minutes. Maybe I did one for energy and I think it was 25 minutes. So it depends on what you're focusing on, but if you go for more than an hour at a time, that's what he's talking about. That's when it's kind of the adverse.
Then you're not gonna get the returns that you're wanting. And the body it's just
Too much at one
too
time.
much for the body. The body's not gonna give you more energy if you do it for 4 hours. Like, no, it's just, there's a certain time.
Does insurance pay for it?
No. Because it's an alternative therapy.
They want to fix what's broken, not prevent it
Right.
from being.
It would be great if they did, or if they reimbursed you, right?
How
But
about in Europe, where it's more used?
that's a very good question, and I don't know.
How did you get into this? What led you to this?
What led me to the machine? A very good question. So I'm kind of part of a mastermind group, and one of the guys in the mastermind group, I was talking about my grandmother who actually bought an infrared device, and she's had shoulder pain, and she's been using that on her shoulder, and now she doesn't have pain anymore. And he said to me, he's like, well, you've been to Tony Robbins events. I said, well, no, I've only been to the virtual one. I haven't been to a live one. He said, well, at the live events, Tony Robbins, his company backs the machine. So in his community, he has a bunch of these in the lobby, and people will go stand around them. And if you've ever been to UPW with Tony Robbins, like it's a 12-hour, like you're there like all day for like 3-4 days, but you're doing work on you. So yeah, so people would sit around those to get energized, and so he's done a lot of research, and he just came out with a new book, Life Force, where he talked about all of these advancements in technology that are different than what we've been able to see. How there's devices that can cure cancer and can do some of these things, but it's not mainstream, right? And I feel like the problems with just how everything's played out. Who's making the money with the insurance company compared to the government and everything there, so. But,
And
yeah,
go back to the previous, your question, that, it's new stuff, and sometimes they even know the new stuff works, but insurance companies don't want to pay for it, it's like not mainstream. But if you look on one of the sheet we hand out, we have a package that makes it so accessible, and we've added that around for a long time, knowing that you need at least 12 sessions to have some lasting value. And so it ends up being like $25 a session. Yeah. So it's on your handout.
After the 12 sessions, is it then an ongoing thing?
so that's a very good question, right? So that's where we reevaluate and see how you're doing, right? Has your goal shifted? Has it changed?
Yeah.
I've had some patients where, hey, I want to focus on my shoulder pain or my knees or,
Okay.
right? So they have like 3 or 4 different areas, and so it might be, okay, are we gonna focus on a different area now?
Yeah.
Right? Or is it more just of a maintenance thing where it's just a couple times a month or,
Okay.
right? So there's still a lot of stuff that we're testing out too, because this is something that's pretty new to the Tucson community.
Okay.
And that's why we'd love to have you fill out the information that we've given. I know there's the one, it's all black, where I went through the different technology levels. But that helps us kind of know, like, what is everybody focused on? Like, do they want to have, like, are they having issues with depression and they want that to put a group together for it?
Different issues?
Yep.
You can't do more than one issue at a time.
So not at the exact same time. So we're usually doing about 2.
We just go with what hurts the
Right.
most.
Because it might be like, I got this pain in my shoulder, I'm thinking that's where the pain is. It could be somewhere else in the body that's causing that, right? So not only are we focusing on that, like we're focusing on the whole body as well, because it could be a different organ or somewhere else where there's the issue that's causing that. So a lot of this is, you're taking a lot of the Eastern medicine and you're kind of tying it into technology. What's awesome about this is because of the technology, we can actually go right to a specific frequency. And it's not an analog device, it's a digital device. So where you would miss certain frequencies, we can dial into a specific frequency. And that's what the doctors and everybody that are higher up in the Biocharger, they're putting these little recipes together. So
Out of curiosity, has anyone, done any research that coordinates with the meridians?
So, yeah, that's a very good, that's a good question. And I'm not sure.
You had a group session, you have, the group would have to be wanting all the same initiative.
Correct, but we did a group session, so if you had if you did a private session, and you said, hey, I have 4 other people that are coming with me, okay, what are you wanting to do? Right, so are you wanting to focus on skin? I haven't done that yet, but I've had other people in the community where they've done that and the wrinkles are not so deep and it's like they do before and after pictures. But then there's also tinnitus. I would love to put a tinnitus group together and have patients go through that. Can we get rid of it? How long does it last? Like, so if there's a group that you want to put together, then that would be more of like a private session where you'd be kind of orchestrating that. But then we wouldn't be catering to everybody in the group where it's like, oh, we're going to do 400 different things. It's like, you're the one that put it together. What are we focusing on? Right. And one of those is going to be the full body. But if it is it, you know, we're all want to feel better, right? So then we can focus on mood. And I can do that as well.
We're putting together groups on like pain. So if you're a group session, it's one thing rather than being dispersed, because obviously it's not going to be as effective. So it's focused on pain, or it's focused on sleep, focused on not snoring, focused on tinnitus. So yes, group sessions are just that, so that you're getting concentrated effort.
And especially at the beginning, it's more broad, because hopefully that can help rectify some of those issues, and then it can get more specific after that.
But if you're wanting to do like a group sessions in regard to like you individually, then yeah, then you individually would be going to a tinnitus group. It wouldn't be a private.
So you call and say, you put a group of these people together.
And we'll let you know what time that tinnitus group is. And, so, but a lot of too, like I'm flexible with all this because this is something that we're trying to create a win-win for everybody. And I didn't really, my focus wasn't to come here and say, hey, I'm great, like come to us, like that wasn't it. It was to share these things that we've been doing because we've seen results in other people. And if I can help somebody not pass away or have a better quality of life for another few years, like, yeah, then I've done my job. That's kind of where I'm at. This other guy that I talked to you about in the mastermind group who told me about the Biocharger, when he was a little younger, he actually had an infection. There was something wrong with his lungs. There was a growth that was growing. So the surgeon wanted to cut it out, and he scheduled an appointment to have that done. And he told his friend, and his friend was like, you're not going to the doctor, you're not cutting that out. I'm a shaman, he's up in the mountains. If you're going to go see him, he does energy stuff that's like along the lines of some of this stuff, but it's like over a lot of our heads because we're used to going to the doctor and getting medication. And he worked with the shaman for so many, I don't know how long he worked with him, but when he went back to have the surgery, doctors were like, okay, let's look at the lungs, and it was gone. Right. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening inside the body that a lot of people aren't aware of. A lot of emotions, a lot of traumas. There's things that have happened to us where we can store that in different parts of the body, and then they can start manifesting down the road as it starts to stack on top of each other. And we want to clear those things out. We want to have the body working like it needs to, and free the spirit to where we can love enjoying the life. I keep hearing from a lot of my patients, they talk about the golden years. There's nothing golden about it. I'm falling apart here and there and there. And I know for me personally, I don't want that to be 20 years of my life just being in constant pain and going from doctor to doctor to doctor to not having any relief. And for the one patient that has the kidney that was removed, I asked him, I said, on a scale from 1 to 10, where do you pain at? He said, my pain's at 12. And then when he came back and did another session. I said, you said that it went down. I was totally surprised because he said nothing happened in the session. I said, where's your pain at now? He says it's 5. And how long has he been at a 12? And now he's starting to get relief, and I'm not giving him any medication, and we're not cutting anything, we're not taking his other kidney. And so we're trying to help the body heal and work the way that God created it. And it's just, we have amazing bodies, and there's so much about it that I think we've only started to scratch the surface, and yet Tesla and some of these thinkers, they were onto it. And then it's like, what happened to that? You know, a lot of that stuff got buried, and now some of that stuff started to come out, because I don't know about you, we're starting to get tired of suppressing. We want our bodies to become whole and heal and get rid of the problem. And I'll leave you with this analogy. It's like getting a sliver, and all of a sudden you notice that it hurts, and there's pus that starting to form around it. And you go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, I can take care of that. Right? They make an incision, they drain the pus out. Okay, I fixed the problem, right? And then in a couple of months, it fills back up, and now you still have the pain. Like, they didn't go to the root cause. And I really feel strongly about going to the root cause of the problem. And that could be, and that's what this is doing. Like, this is why we got the machine and everything, is to help go to the root cause, go to the cells, and help your body work the way that God made it. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for your time. If you have any other questions after, we can do that. I know we need to clear the room, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, all of you. And I would just like to remind the people that we have a disclaimer that the Sunflower Tech Club invites vendors to share information about their technology products and services on Tech Talk. This invitation does not constitute an endorsement of any products and services. Therefore, the Tech Club is only liable and responsible for quality performance of the vendor product or service. Legal disclaimer.
Perfect.
And Lorraine, you want to say something? Oh, no, okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you so much for coming. Always very interesting. We learned a lot today. So thank you. Thank you. Justin.